The one thing that we've stuck with for, I don't even know how it started, but it was back on the U of M team, 20 some years ago. We started wearing our bibs to bed the night before, and there's no real reason. It's not like comfortable or an advantage for any reason, but it's since they changed the Birkie bibs, now the new ones, they're actually pretty comfortable. We've stuck with that. We still do that just for fun,
Welcome to the Birch Legacies podcast. We are sharing stories celebrating the motivation, the perseverance, and the lifestyle choices necessary to reach the status of Birchlegger. That is, skiers who have completed 20 or more Birkies, Korteloppets, or a combination of both. We would love to hear from Birchleggers young and old who have a story to tell about what keeps them coming back year after year. Information about appearing on this podcast is in the podcast notes. Hi folks, welcome back to Birch Legacies, and I've got a really special guest, somebody that I was hoping to have on here when I first thought of this idea. Travis Hinck is with us, and what I really like about this is that Travis is a Birchlegger who was on my ski team back in the day. So I think I might name this podcast the Birchleggers Next Gen or something like that, because, like me, you became a Birchlegger in your early 40s, right?
That's right. Yep. A couple years ago.
Yeah. So why don't you start, Travis, by talking a little bit about yourself, let folks know what you're about and what you do, and a little bit about your family and so on.
Yeah. Well, my name is Travis Hinck, and I'm a Birchlegger, and which is why I'm here. I went to Park Center High School, which is probably the most salient reason why I'm here. So I skied for your podcast host here, Mr. Peterson, or Petey. I've been corresponding for the last couple of days to set up this podcast interview, and I have to, check my brain about, what do I actually call you now? Like, Mr. Peterson sounds a little formal for being 40s. And then, after high school, I went to the University of Minnesota. I got my degree in electrical engineering. I've gotten a series of jobs since then. I've been working at a small engineering consulting firm for the last 13 years now, and I work in the utility space doing energy efficiency mostly. And throughout all that time, I've been continuing to stick with cross country skiing and doing the Birkie every year. And like you said, I managed to achieve the Birchlegger status. Actually, doing the math here, I think I was 38 the day that I achieved my really? Birchleggen. Yep.
Okay, so you went straight through from high school.
Yep, straight through. And it was 21, because there was the 2017, the year it was canceled. But other than that, it was one Birkie per year. So it added up quickly. Looking back now, it doesn't feel like it's been 24 years of Birkies, but which I appreciate doing this podcast, by the way, because it gives me an opportunity to actually, I have these memories, but I don't have a structured way to put them in the world. And this is really, beneficial for me to think back on all the experiences throughout the years.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of cool that you shared some notes with me, and I've been looking through the notes, and it's been fun for me because, of course, I knew you in high school pretty well, and then we just crossed paths off and on over the last 20 some years, but I didn't know a lot of the details that we can hear from you. One of the things I was going to ask you about, so you graduated from high school in what, 2001,
2001. Yep.
2001. Okay. And was that the year that we were the conference champions? Is that the one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. But that year was the year that we went. We had several people go to state.
Yeah.
We were the conference champions, and then had several people go to state individually.
Yeah. We had that was probably the best team we ever had. It was a mixture of you, and I think you have two brothers that were on the team, and then the Diddy brothers and
Kevin Walzak.
Kevin Walzak and
Matt Tui. Yeah.
Yeah, so we had some real good skiers at the time, and it was kind of a nice combination that we were able to put that together. And it was always, you guys. It was fun to be your coach and make sure I had you on the starting line at the right time. But it was fun how hard you guys worked, and what a nice group of young men that was to coach. And I learned a lot from coaching you to see kind of what it takes, because oftentimes coach thinks it's about them, and I've kind of learned that it's about you guys and how hard you work to be your best. So it was cool.
We did a good job of working hard when you guys were watching. That's it. It was. I don't know if you noticed here on the video.
Yeah, I did.
Listeners won't see, but I dug out my yellow fleece from Park Center Nordic back in the day. Yeah. If you remember, we got you those bright yellow coaches jackets for a present at the end of the year.
Yeah, I still have that.
which was the part of the motive for that was to make sure that you showed up in the back, like we could see you coming from a distance and make sure if we were having a snowball fight or standing around, we'd start
Yeah.
skiing again.
Yeah, the sometimes some years, not your year so much, but we used to call it the Park Center standing team because we'd find them, waiting at the top of a hill after they just climbed one. So, yeah, we weren't always the best team in the conference, but occasionally we were pretty good. So your first Birkie 2002, is that what I see here?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And then tell us a little bit about that one because you have kind of an interesting perspective of the joys of skiing from the 10th wave.
Yeah, yeah. So after high school, I went to the University of Minnesota where there's a club team. So it's kind of there's no coaching and it's not like competitive where you don't compete in NCAA races, but we go do a lot of the local citizen races, and you kind of get out of the team whatever you put in. If you want to take it seriously, you can. If you want to just enjoy it, that's fine. And so it was great for me because the infrastructure was in place to just kind of hitch onto the team and they'll get you to the start line and then you can do whatever you want. We were, as a team, we get to the start line and, that year I didn't have any qualifying races. So we all started in the 10th wave and some of us, we called him coach as a joke because we didn't have any coaches, but Coach John Wacker was skiing in a, Hawaiian lei and a Hawaiian shirt and khakis and just, taking it real easy, and some of us were taking it kind of seriously, but it was skiing from the 10th wave. I think was a great experience for a first time, just because there's no way to go too hard because there's too many people. Like you can't overdo it too much too early, and there's no people around you that are like trying to win the race, and so you can do the first one just like experiencing the course and the race and the people and the volunteers, and really and kind of appreciate the race. Even though you're trying to do as best you can, you're not likely to understand how to do it the first time. And so I thought skiing from the 10th wave the first time was great. Now if you'd come from a history of doing junior Olympics or nationals or whatever, something serious, it might not make as much sense to do it from the 10th wave. But I thought for a sort of more casual skier, it was a much more laid back experience and really fun.
Yeah, I mean that's my son skied his first one from the last wave and just had a really, I think, an interesting time. It was sometimes frustrating because you just end up behind folks when you want to keep moving, and you have to be a little careful about stepping on people's skis as you go through, and it's just it can be difficult. But I'm glad that to see and hear your perspective, because I think that's for a lot of folks who are quote unquote stuck in the last wave because they don't have a qualifier. It's a good approach. Your mental approach to that, which I think, as folks will hear, your mental approach to how you look at these kind of competitions and qualifications and so on is I think pretty well grounded. I really enjoyed working with you and seeing kind of how you approach things. You've got a lot of different Birkies experience now with 23 of them under your belt. How did the years vary, and maybe talk a little bit about some of the years that you remember?
Thinking back, it's changed a lot over the last 23 Birkies, 24 years. And the race itself is still recognizable, but anybody who's done several of them will notice that the race has changed significantly. That there's more people, there's more things going on race week, and it's a slightly different experience now, which is great. It's evolving and growing, and it's fun to watch the race change. But the race itself has been similar for me. It's kind of a reflection of just phases of life, where early on, we would, as a college team, somebody would have class until late Friday. So we'd all pile into the 15-passenger van Friday afternoon, and we'd have to drive to Telemark to get our bibs and then drive an hour to where we were staying. And then we'd have to wax our skis and sleep on a concrete floor. And, we'd be sleeping in a, fluoro haze all night. And you'd have to wake up at 5:30 in order to get the first person to the start line on time. So it was like, we're spending less time sleeping and more time driving than we are skiing on a ski trip. Right. But it was great. It was one of those where it's about having fun with a group of people, and some of those people that were on the team then are still some of my best friends that are still skiing together, and some of them are getting their Birch leggings now too, and it's I've built a lot of friendships that way. But then that was the first sort of phase, was just make it happen and go up. And then we got a little bit older and we're able to afford better places to stay, or find a smaller niche idea. And then the luckiest that we got was the year that they closed telemark the first time, and
Hmm.
everybody else had to find their new lodging.
Yeah.
And then they reopened it. And I just happened to see the morning that they announced that they were reopening telemark. I just saw the announcement that they were reopening it, and it didn't even say anything about availability or anything. But I called and said, "Hey, are there going to be rooms available Birkie weekend?" And happened to be, one of the first people in line to inquire about it. And so we booked a room at telemark,
Hmm.
and were able to then renew that, and we stayed there for 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
And so I remember that being super convenient, and then since then we started having families, and we've stayed at a couple different places since then, where there's a Deerfoot Lodge over on the Chippewa Flowage, and then since then a couple of cabins that my friends put in the effort to find, that really accommodate our families. And now we have a sort of, we stay at a cabin. It's actually, I think, near your cabin, down near the Stone Lake direction.
Okay. Yeah, that's where we
Is
are.
and it's we it's multiple bedrooms, and the families can, between having young kids and needing more space, the cabin works out a lot better. But
Nice.
it's again, the race has evolved, but the experience has changed significantly, and it's fun to think back on.
Yeah, for sure. You have two children?
Two, yep, a
Okay.
son 7, and a daughter 3. I got them skiing each when they were 2, and
Mhm.
I feel like that's really really the key to it, is like get them skiing when they don't know any better than they could complain or ask to do something else. It's just
Yeah.
what's happening to them.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're out
And
there
it's
with their parents having a good time. So now, has your son done the Barnaburkey yet?
Yes, yep, he's done a
Okay.
couple of them, and Eliza's
Okay.
actually done 2 of them also.
Oh,
Although
really? Wow.
this was the first year that she had snow for it.
Okay. One of the things as I've been following your skiing career is that, as all of the listeners I'm sure do, they want to look up their people they know and see how they did. And, some of their peers who they're trying to beat, and then other people that they just want to see how it went. And I was always amazed to see your results. Do you want to, I'll give you a little time to brag. Why don't you tell us about some of the results that you've had over the last 20 years?
Well, don't look up this year's. This year's
Okay.
is starting to tail off a little bit.
Yeah.
Which in fact, I feel like the last 10 years I've been kind of coasting on some of the training I did, back in the college days. Coincidentally, since kids, it's been slowing
Yeah. Yeah.
down. Who
Who,
knew?
who'd have thought?
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's after that first out of the Wave 10 year, I qualified for Wave 2, which I think is another advantage of Wave 10. You're less likely to qualify for Wave 1. And Wave 1, I hear, is a nightmare. And I have managed to never ski out of Wave 1 for the skate race, because from Wave 2, I jumped up to the Elite Wave, and then I managed to qualify for the Elite Wave every year except one since then. And so I did 10 skate Birkies, most of them out of the Elite Wave. And then since then, I switched over to the Classic, and I had been in the Elite Wave every year except one since then, until now. This year, I fell out again.
What was your highest finish ever in the Birkie?
So in the Classic, I got 15th one year, and that was that was the year, I think it's 2014, when there was a huge snowfall the night before,
Hmm.
and still during the race. And so it was a very unique day for, definitely glad to be classicing. And it was, some luck that went into your finishing position that depended on, kind of how your skis worked in the conditions.
Hmm.
And then on the skate side, I think it was high 40s, I think 48th
Okay.
one year. And that was the year that we had Bjorn Dahle was signing bibs the night before the race when we were at bib
Okay.
pickup. So we feel like we harnessed the energy that Bjorn Dahle sent our
There you
way.
go. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so such a strong finish. It's such a strong race.
That, I
And
mean, on a curve, for anybody who's newer to it, 48th, and whatever that was 15 years ago in the skate race, is probably equivalent to like 300th now. The competition is significantly steeper these days.
I don't know about that, but yeah, it was very proud of the skiing that you did. And for those of you who don't know Travis is a big, strong guy. I mean, he's always had a lot of strength in his skiing, and so it didn't surprise me that you've done as well in classic. So that's really, really something. So I'm very proud of what you've done. What's changed in terms of your preparations and how you're approaching the Birkie? It's like I said, the priorities change. You've got family and the amount of training that you're able to do with work and balance and all that. Let's just talk through a little bit how that's changed for you.
I've never done well with like a training plan. I've never stuck to a real good training plan or regime. Like it's not for some reason it just doesn't work well with me. So most of my training throughout my life has been, hey, I feel like going for a run, or hey, I feel like going skiing today,
Hmm.
or somebody's, I know they're going skiing. And in college and shortly after college, there was just so many opportunities where every day I could, go for a run or a bike, and you know, it wasn't planned, but it worked out really well. That I wind up putting a lot of miles and effort into training, even though it wasn't structured. And we'd play ultimate frisbee for 3 hours, on a Friday afternoon down at the river flats or whatever, and that would be not part of a workout plan, but you're sprinting around for 3 hours, and it's actually really good training. Since then, I've realized I probably should put some more effort into, something structured. And I'd say, I don't know if it's been 6 or 7 years now, I've been doing the LNR Wave 1 training group.
Hmm.
So that gives me one night a week where I'm doing one planned workout that's, it's an intensity workout that's, something I wouldn't do on my own if I'm not, paying
Hmm.
$250 to have somebody yell at me to do it.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's one sort of evolution, but it's other than that, it's always been kind of just like doing what my body feels like doing on a given day, and that's worked out. But I'm realizing now I need to put more effort into actually like planning ahead.
So that for the listeners who aren't from the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul area, LNR is Lopet
Oh,
Nordic
right. Yeah.
Racing. Yeah, right. And they operate generally out of Theater Worth. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And I appreciate your sharing the fact that your approach is more informal. It's like, having a training group is always good and having someone you can train with. But I see that's a nice balance for that. But I've had that same feeling in most of my skiing too, is that it's like, well, here I've got a weekend. I'm going to push hard today and tomorrow, and then I know that the next 3 days I won't get to ski, so I'll have to kind of make up for it. But it works differently for different people. A couple of the earlier guests that I had on here, Kim Rudd and Kitty Earl Tornian, and they're both like super disciplined and really stay on top of their things, and the results show it too. But it isn't for everybody, and we all kind of have to work with the context for ourselves. So, what are some of the traditions that go around? Arriving, and do you have certain food? Do you have the beforehand stuff? Do you have music? Tell us a little bit about that.
So we've always tried to do something like a pasta feed or something the night before. So we still do something like that. We usually have spaghetti or lasagna the night before, and there's always beer the night after, which is
Hmm.
as much of a tradition. It's more of a like, of course it's going to happen kind of thing.
Yep.
The one thing that we've stuck with for I don't even know how it started, but it was back on the U of M team, 20 some years ago. We started wearing our bibs to bed the night before, and I'd have to ask. I should have asked James before to see if he remembers how we started that. I think it was like a more of a Lopet thing. Again, 20 years ago. But so we all wear our bibs the night before the race. Wear them to bed, and there's no real reason. It's not like comfortable or an advantage for any reason, but it's since they changed the Birkie bibs, now the new ones, it's really actually not that big a deal. It's they're actually pretty comfortable, but
Yeah.
we've stuck with that. We still do that just for fun,
That's,
So
that is that is funny. There's probably some pictures of that somewhere too. That's good. This year was kind of fun for me because I was in the Spirit of 35 wave for the first time, so I got a 20-minute head start on you. And you came by, as I knew you would at some point, and recognized me and even called me Mr. Peterson on the trail. We were just past Bodecker at that point, and you and I were both talking about heart rates. You were having a hard time getting yours down, and I had earlier noticed that mine had gone a little too high. So we were both working on kind of calming ourselves down. How did that race go? With did you were you able to get it where you wanted it?
no, not at all. This year was a disaster, kind of heart rate wise, which has been a new thing for me the last couple of years. That it's probably always been an issue with me, but I've just never really paid that close attention. And the last couple of years, I've noticed that the heart rate has been, I'll finish a race now, and my arms and legs will be a little tired, but they weren't the limiting factor, and really it's the cardio. And so I need to start thinking about how to address that, and then change my approach to races to account for that better. But in terms of this year in the race, like it was already the kind where I was like, I need to take it a little bit easier. And then I saw you, and that was a perfect reason to, hey, let's,
Yeah.
I can stop and have a conversation. But really, I couldn't go any faster anyways. So it was a good
Yeah.
opportunity to just hang out for a couple minutes.
Well, it was really a treat for, yeah, a super treat for me because the whole year was this whole event this year was special because I had my granddaughter and my son and skiing from 35. And then when you came by, I was just telling, people, it was on the it was on the bullet points of what the best things about the race were. And, you and I probably skied together for 300 yards or something like that. But it was time enough to have a quick conversation and commiserate. And I just loved the fact that we had that moment out there. So what advice do you have for those, people that are either in your generation or younger, or even the older ones that are working towards getting to become Birchleggers?
Everybody has their own approach, but from my experience, what I've found is, I feel like if I had tried doing some serious, training plan and trying to stick to it, I may have burned out earlier, and it may not have been as enjoyable along the way. And so, from my perspective, my advice would be, ski to have fun. And my best days skiing every year are somewhere on a natural snow trail when nobody's timing anything and nobody's paying attention. You're just out having, fun. And, the day that you get perfect glide and perfect kick, and just enjoy it. Like, it doesn't have to be, a performance, except the year that you finish your 20th, that when you cross the finish line, that's your forever, your Birchlegger number. So
Yeah.
that's the year you got to do good. Otherwise, you just got to keep finishing races.
Yeah.
That's the only year that the performance actually matters.
Yeah.
And even that, not that much.
It not that much, but it is funny because, in my class of becoming a Birchlegger in 98, I was at one time, I was whatever, eighth or something from that class. It was based on when I crossed the finish line that year. And now I think of the people that are still doing it, I'm second or something, but it does still put you at your ranking to where it is. So,
and the other advice: get your kids skiing as young as possible, because by the time Onder was old enough to potentially want to complain and do something else, he had good enough balance and he was good enough at it that he really enjoyed it. So by the time he was 3 or 4, he's out there enjoying skiing. So the younger you get them started, the more they're likely to enjoy it, which makes it more enjoyable for the parents as well.
Yeah. And it also gives you an excuse to be out there and they can be skiing and you can be skiing, and you don't have to go the same speed as them all the time. You can do other things. So,
and one last thing, I know we're running low, but I just want to thank you for, my laid back approach only works because all the people that, put in the effort to build the infrastructure. And from the first day in high school, all I had to do was show up and enjoy skiing. And really, all the effort that goes into, like, booking buses or, directing races or, having having groomers and ski trails, all of that was already there for me. So it was, people like you that put in the effort to make the community a place that, that's accepting and it's accessible to people like me to just show up and enjoy skiing, and then build a lifetime, enjoyment of an activity that, it's something that, wouldn't have happened if it wasn't available to me. And thanks to you and, the University of Minnesota, and I was on the Højgaard ski team for 10 years, where, I try to give back a little bit, where we host the Højgaard's relays there and put in some effort there. But for the most part, it's been, accessible to me, and all I have to do is show up and put on my skis. And that's thanks to people who put in the effort to make the community possible. So thank you, along with many other people.
Well, yeah, exactly. I'll say you're welcome on behalf of the entire ski community, because it is the cool thing to see the way in which young people are able to be, introduced to the sport and continue to enjoy it. I see that going on in Boston, where my son is, and he's talked about the huge infrastructure of parents and the wax building they have, where there's 50 parents in there waxing 300 kids' skis at once and trying to get it all done. And it just doesn't happen unless there's a lot of love for the sport and the intention to get the next generation skiing, which is what we hope to encourage with people. And the Birch Leggings Club is very anxious to have more people of your generation get engaged and keep that goal out there for themselves. So listeners, I hope that whatever age you are, that if you're shooting for Birch Legging status, just get out there and enjoy it and take whatever approach that works best for you. All right. Well, thanks, Travis, for being on here. I really was looking forward to this, and you did not disappoint. I'm very happy that you were able to be on, and very proud of all the things that you've accomplished, both on the snow and elsewhere.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Thanks.
Thanks for listening. Please check out the podcast notes to see links to the Birch Leggings Club and the Birkie website. If you've skied a combination of 20 Birkies and or Korties, I encourage you to join the Birch Leggings Club. If you'd like to tell your Birkie story, please contact me, John Peterson, at my email listed in the podcast notes or by filling out the guest application form linked there. Please subscribe to our program wherever you get your podcasts and leave a review. You can also text us directly from your phone or computer using the quick link in the notes to let us know how we are doing.